All right, welcome back to the podcast. Appreciate you finding us. Now it is time to go down to South Florida and visit with the voice of the Miami Hurricanes going into year 23 as the play-by-play voice. Been on the broadcast many, many years, but he's been the voice of the Canes for going on year number 23 here, Mr. Joe Zagacki. Appreciate you joining us here, Joe.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate you having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, just a mere couple of weeks away here from the season opener for the Hurricanes. Miami coming off a 7-6 year last year, 3-5 in the ACC. You know, most people remember Miami got off to a great start, 4-0, and then they had the disastrous finish in the Georgia Tech game. Were able to recover after that after a couple of losses, and then wrapped up the year at 7-6. Year three of Mario Cristobal continued his adventures into the transfer portal and such, which we're going to get into. Uh, First question for you, Joe. How much of an impact did that Georgia Tech finish have on the rest of the year for that team and that coaching staff?
Well, that's probably hard to measure, but I would say it certainly affected them. The next week, they went to North Carolina and lost that game. They did come back and recover briefly. They beat Clemson in overtime, beat Virginia in overtime. So I do think they got past it. Down the stretch, they lost what 6 of their last 9 games, averaged 26 points a game. Um, they fumbled the ball in the red zone. They turned the ball over in the red zone. They had penalties in the red zone. I don't think that was associated with the decision that was made against Georgia Tech, but certainly the week after, going into the Carolina game, it certainly did have an effect, and probably did knock the season sideways. And there's no doubt. Listen, it's the first question you asked me. I did an interview last week. It was the third question asked to me. So it's something that Mario Cristobal and the program have to get past. And the only way to get past it is to win. That's it.
Do you feel like do you get a good sense from the guys that are there now? Obviously, you have a lot of new guys coming in, but a lot of the guys that are returning, they're over that moment, and they haven't lost confidence in the coaching staff and all that. You think the confidence is still there in that staff?
Well, listen, if they're still dwelling on
Right.
something that happened last October, they had no chance. So I just don't think you dwell on something in sports that happened a year ago. You can't dwell on stuff like that in life. You got to go forward. It happened. It's over. They lost the game. It did affect the season. It stained his resume. The only way to get away from it is move forward. If you're going to sit back and dwell on it the whole time, then the program is never going to go forward. In addition, many of the players on this team this year weren't here last year. Starting with the quarterback, Cam Ward, he wasn't part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Martinez, he wasn't part of that. The center, Zach Carpenter, not part of that. Sam Brown, wide receiver, not part of that. The defensive line, almost the entire defensive line, weren't here, not part of it. So I do think guys that weren't here, it doesn't affect them at all. They came through the transfer portal. To me, the bigger challenge is how do you bring all those guys in here and create a team,
Right.
especially when you do have adversity like they did against Georgia Tech? How do you get those guys to bond together, well together, become a team at the moment of truth? These are not only in Miami, but all across college athletics. We've almost created a system of mercenaries. So now you've got to figure out how to make them a team. And to me, that's the bigger challenge.
And if you look at the Miami, 2024 Miami Hurricanes, you mentioned a lot of new faces, a lot of expectation. A lot of people nationally think Miami is a sleeper team. They avoid Clemson, they avoid Carolina, they avoid NC State on the schedule. They've got a very manageable schedule, and you're now in a situation where you don't have to go 12-0. You can lose a game, maybe two, and if you win the conference, you're still going to be in the college football playoff. Hard to believe that Miami has never been in the ACC title game in 20 years or so of the ACC. Hard that is just a stat that when I saw it,
Well,
I just
not
continued
not quite. They've been in the championship game. They lost to
never
Clemson.
correct. My
They
mistake.
hadn't won the championship game, and
Correct.
they did qual. People do forget this. It gets under my skin a little bit. They did qualify for the ACC championship game under Al Golden.
Okay.
They forfeited their opportunity to play in the ACC championship game because they thought that would help them with the NCAA and punishment because of the Nevin Shapiro situation.
It's a
But
very good clarification there. You're right.
To your point, they haven't won the ACC championship since they joined the league, and everybody thought Miami would play Florida State quite a bit in the championship game. It has not happened. They have a team this year that is built to get to the ACC championship game. Whether it happens or not, to me, it will happen if they cut down on their turnovers, they cut down on their penalties, and they improve their red zone offense. And often those three things are in conflict. So if they figure out those three things, I think they'll have a chance to appear in that ACC championship game. You also mentioned the schedule, and I would agree with that. And, Miami has not held up their end of the bargain inside the ACC. There's no question about that. But the ACC, and these are little things, I don't know that they've done Miami any favors anywhere along the line. Same with Florida State. That's why Florida State wants out. And people will go, well, what is it that they could have done? Well, how about, I'm going to whine a little bit, probably, how about, for example, when you play Florida State, don't follow that game up with Clemson.
Right.
Or don't follow that game up with North Carolina. Because for Miami and Florida State, so much ride on that game.
Uh-huh.
Why do you put them in a position the very next week to get beat? And how about you invited Miami in this conference to be Miami? And that means everything that comes with it. Whether you agree with their style of play or not, let them be Miami. But no. They've kind of neutered Miami and tried to force them to be Duke. So I'll probably get in trouble. But that's my feeling on it.
Let's get to week number one. Such a pivotal game in Gainesville against the Gators. You got two coaches that are feeling a little bit of heat. Obviously, I think more heat up in Gainesville than in Miami, but still a massively critical non-conference game in Gainesville. What is Florida and Miami? Give Miami credit. They're playing in Gainesville. A couple weeks later, they're playing here in Tampa against USF. They're going to see obviously Florida State later in the year. So a true state championship is on the line. And if Miami can navigate at least two out of those three, you're going to be in a great spot to have a big year. Just talk about the importance of that first game on the road in Gainesville.
Yeah, I put the Florida game on a separate island, and that is it's the University of Florida in Miami. If you're a Miami person, you hate Florida, and so you got to win that game. You cannot lose that game. The series is 29-27 in favor of Miami. That's how close it is. But first of all, they should play every year. One of the greatest Miami-Florida games I ever saw was in the 86 season in Gainesville, one of the hardest-hitting college football games I've ever seen. Kind of epitomized what Miami and Florida was supposed to be. If we have that kind of game this year, both sides will be, have their guys tossed out because in 86 that game was so physical. Nowadays you can't play that way. That being said, you got to win that game. You're the University of Miami. Yes, if you lose, can you recover? Yeah, sure. Miami recovered in 83. They recovered in 85. Yes, you can recover from that game if you lose. But from a bragging standpoint, from a stick your chest out, from our program is better than your program, you got to win that game. It's Miami and Florida. If you're Miami, you got to win that game. Florida doesn't want to play you. They do come down here next year. But Florida doesn't want to play Miami. If you're Miami, you got to win that game.
No doubt.
The way to win that game, and by the way, the way to win that game is in the swamp at 3:30 is not going to be a picnic. That crowd is going to be revved up, ready to go. They are going to try to affect Cam Ward the best way they can. The Gators had 3 interceptions all of last year. 7 takeaways all season. If you're Miami, you cannot let them get into a feeding frenzy. You cannot turn the ball over. You play bully ball with Damian Martinez and take the crowd right out of it. You've got to be able to. Miami ran for 211 yards against Clemson. Put 200 on the Gators and they'll win.
Let's talk about, you mentioned Cam Ward and Damian Martinez. Those are the two big portal guys that come in offensively. Cam Ward at quarterback, the Washington State transfer. I looked up the stats. This guy's thrown for 14,000 yards in his career, 119 touchdowns. I know he's played at some smaller, not massive Power 5 programs, but he's still produced when he's had an opportunity. Damian Martinez, a bell cow kind of back, kind of reminds me of Stephen McGuire back in the Miami days.
Yeah, good one.
A guy you could just hand it to 25, 30 times if you need to. Big production at Oregon State. Big offensive line is back. A lot of expectations. Mario, we obviously know his background with the offensive line. So do you anticipate this being a wide open offense or a little more of a between the tackles, bully ball kind of offense that you mentioned?
Jason, that's a good question because in my opinion, Cam Ward, and you mentioned his numbers, and 2 years in Washington State, he threw for 6,900 yards in just 2 years there. In my opinion, he came here to throw the football. Show his arm off, show the NFL. Right. I can throw the football. I want to be a quarterback. I'm going to direct traffic. I'm going to be the guy. But when he signed here, he didn't have Damian Martinez. So the question is, you throw balance, for show and run balance. To win. Yeah, you got some balance there. Throw for show, run to win. And you cannot not give the ball to Damian Martinez. You can't tackle this guy. There's going to be a lot of swings and misses trying to tackle Damian Martinez. He's as impressive physical-wise as I have seen last year, one of the top runners with yards after contact.
Yeah.
So originally I thought Cam Ward comes here to throw the football, but I think the blueprint to win is give the ball to Damian Martinez and work a play-action game off of that.
You got Xavier Restrepo back at wide receiver, 85 catches last year, clearly the number one option there. Any significant upgrades there at the other wide receiver spot, tight end? Give me a player or two to keep an eye on there other than Restrepo.
Well, Jacoby George is coming off a great season. He had 57 catches, was a big play guy for Miami, 8 touchdowns. I think a lot of people think he could play at the next level. His problem has been behavior. In games, he gets a lot of silly for a wide receiver that's barely 6 feet tall. He picks a lot of fights, so you just can't have that. And he's been costing Miami with personal foul penalties. But he's an explosive player, so if he can take the one selfish part out of his game, I think he's got a chance to be a really good player. Sam Brown came in through the transfer portal. He's bigger than I thought. He's tall, long-legged. I think he's got a chance to be a really special player. JoJo Trader's a 5-star player, wide receiver from Chaminade High School. Elijah Arroyo is a really good tight end who's been injured the last 2 years. And then freshman Elijah Lofton, he's a tight end, H-back, running back, can do a lot of different things. So they don't have a shortage of weapons. There's a shortage of footballs, but they don't have a shortage of weapons.
And again, they're going to lean on that offensive line, an experienced offensive line, a pretty good unit there. Again, Mario's that's his wheelhouse. So I expect that offensive line to be very, very productive as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, the offensive line all comes back from a year ago for the most part. They lost their left guard, lost their center, but Matt McCoy, who I think will be the starting left guard, has played a lot of left guard, played a lot on the offensive line last year. Zach Carpenter comes in from Indiana. He should be okay for them at center. And then Jalen Rivers and Ez Cooper, Francis Marianoa, all 3 guys are massive. They all played last year. So I think the offensive line is going to be very good. They only gave up 16 sacks last year. So I suspect they'll be very tough in the trenches again.
And before we get to the defense, let's go to the kicking game. You got Andre Borgalis, all ACC player, could be a major weapon for you, especially in these tough road environments, a late field goal, field position, things like that. Talk about the importance of Borgalis.
Yeah, Borregales, you look at his numbers, he's made 56 field goals in his career.
Yeah,
That's pretty good. 56 for 67. Hit 22 out of 26 last year. So he's accurate. He's confident. He can hit with distance. Pretty consistent. Long in last year was 51, career long 55.
yeah.
He still has one his freshman year for the win against Virginia, where he knocked it off the upright. But I think he's overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
The punter, Dylan Joyce, good job last year. Had 20 punts or 15 punts inside the 20-yard line. So I always think that's a pretty good number. Didn't have any, had one block, I think, at the beginning of the year. So I think they're solid there. They're still sorting out the return game. Chris Johnson's got great speed, so I suspect we might see him on kickoffs. It just seems like a natural fit to me. It's not etched in stone. Punt return, I think there's been a problematic area for Miami. For some reason, they've not been able to find a guy that can catch it and give you a great return. They've had a hard enough time finding somebody to catch the damn ball. So we'll see what happens there.
And let's give a shout out to Devin Hester, just inducted in the Pro
Yeah, we
Football
don't
Hall
have
of
Devin
Fame.
Hester.
Yeah. What a weapon he was at Miami. And again, just what that shows is the hidden yardage in the special teams area, whether it's punting, pinning them deep, good return game. Those are all hidden yards that can really help this Miami team. Let's go to the defensive side. To me, looking at the kind of the depth chart, kind of the area that shoring up is defensive line and secondary. Would that be your assessment as well?
Well, they needed to fix the secondary because they lost Cam Kitchens and James Williams, and then they lost Jaden Davis, their starting corner. So they've got some holes there. They brought in Mish Powell, who's a safety from Washington, played a lot of football for Washington last year on their team that went to the championship game.
Yep.
Had 43 tackles for them. Kind of a glue guy in the secondary. Zaquan Patterson's a 5-star player. Came in from Chaminade. I suspect as the season goes on, we'll see more of him. Markeith Williams and Jaden Harris are kind of battling for that other safety spot. Harris has really good speed. Markeith Williams, he didn't play a lot last year, 15 tackles in 11 games, but he does have the experience. But that's your last line of defense. So they lost 2 great players there. On the corner, I feel pretty good about Daryl Porter and Damari Brown. They have a freshman that's had a really good camp in OJ Frederick. The question is that going to carry over into the regular season? Sometimes guys flash in training camp. You don't know if it carries over, but so far, 3 weeks in the training camp, he's been pretty good. Where they think they made some significant improvement through the transfer portal is on their defensive line. The whole key to the defensive line, though, to me, you got Bain. I know Bain's going to be a great player. I know Bain's going to play with intensity. He's going to do all the right things. ACC Freshman of the Year, preseason All-American, great leadership in his family. He is not going to let Miami down. What Miami needs is for Akeem Mesidor to play. And Mesidor only played 3 games last year. The year before that was kind of banged up as well. So he's got to play. He wants to be in the NFL, and he was a foot injury, so give him a little bit of space on that. But if Miami's defensive line is going to be elite, it's going to be Mesidor. And then they brought in Simeon Barrow, Tyler Barron, C.J. Clark through the transfer portal, Elijah Austin, all guys that are older players, good strength, good edge players, good inside players. So they were tough to run on last year.
Yep.
They were 12th in the country. They should be just as good this season, if not better.
Yeah. Last couple questions I'll get you out of. Give me the sense of the mood in South Florida. I mean, we've gone through some head coaches the last 10, 12 years. We've had some moments where we've thought they're back. How hungry is that South Florida community for Miami to put together an 11-1, 12-0 kind of year?
Yeah, I think it's always the same. Every year at this time, they've got eye black underneath their eyes. They're ready to go. Get helmets on and chin straps. Fan base is ready to go. They can't wait. They have high expectations, and why not? They've heard everything. So they've got high expectations. They've seen them recruit at a high level. They've seen them bring in transfer portal players at a high level. They've got a quarterback with a great resume. You've got to go out and win. And, I always hear, on campus stadium. Listen, the University of Miami could play on Mars. And if they won, people would find a way to get there.
Yep.
They just got to win. If they win, people will go to Hard Rock Stadium, and it'll be a great environment. If they had a stadium on campus and they give them what they've given them the last 20 years, they're not going.
Right.
They're not going. This is a community that is spread out. So win, and they will show up. And they are excited. They should be excited. And if Miami gives them the right product, they'll be the 12th man for them. They will empty their lungs. They will do whatever they can to help Miami win. But you've got to give them something to cheer for.
And give me a quick thought, and I'll get you out of here. Give me a quick thought on the Dolphins. So much excitement down there, year 3 with McDaniel. Tua gets his extension. Same kind of with the Hurricanes.
Yeah,
They're just dying for a monster year,
Yep.
maybe a home playoff game and such. Talk to me about Miami Dolphins real quick.
Everybody was excited last year, and deservedly so. They were playing great football, very exciting, great offense, scoring at will. And the offseason, of course, the whole conversation was about Tua, which I didn't understand because he did what he was supposed to do a year ago. The reason they flamed out wasn't Tua. It was the injuries.
Right.
And that's the NFL. You're asking the NFL to play 17 games. The key in the NFL is great quarterback play, number one. And right there is 1A, battle of attrition. Who has the healthy bodies at the end of the year? And the Dolphins lost almost their entire defense and their offensive line. So there was nothing left. They were down to bare bones by the time they got to Christmas. And so everybody's excited. If they make it through healthy, I think they'll get that home playoff game and a home win.
All right, Joe, last thing, I'll get you out of talk to me about the broadcast crew. Everybody back with the broadcast crew, and tell the fans that aren't in South Florida where they can find the Hurricane broadcast in your great crew.
Yeah, well, we're back, and Don Bailey's my analyst, Josh Darrow on the sidelines. So we work for Odyssey. So Odyssey.com has an app. Odyssey has an app. You can tune in on the free Odyssey app nationwide. And, of course, I think every game is on Sirius XM as well. And, of course, if you're here locally in South Florida, WQAM. But with the apps now, you can listen wherever you want to listen.
No doubt about it. And again,
the phone has replaced transistor radios. I remember my dad we'd go to a Dolphin game, and my father would be like this the whole time. And it was a transistor radio, right? So now the phone is the transistor radio.
Absolutely. Joe is a legend in the South Florida media market, been down there a long time, done a lot of great work in lots of different venues. And again, 23 years calling Miami Hurricane football and basketball. He went to the Final Four last year, which was great. So, Joe, keep up the great work. We'll look forward to your opening day showdown in Gainesville on QAM down in South Florida, and obviously Odyssey around the world. So enjoy the year and have a great year, Joe. Appreciate your time.
Okay, Jason. Thank you.